You know, I realize in a very short period of time, there's more to this recording stuff than like I used to do with just sending somebody a text of some fish we caught or maybe something we were doing in the outdoors. This is the third time I've sat down here and tried to record this. First time, neighbor was running the lawnmower, which is normal. And so, anyway, one of my neighbors got some music going, which is normal. I got no problem with that. That's no big deal. But I keep forgetting to turn the phone off. So, right in the middle of trying to record, I'll get a text or a phone call or something like that. Old people and phones, my goodness. So, anyway, I want to tell y'all a funny story. I mentioned I would be talking about humor. And I will make you this promise it will always be clean humor. I won't make any innuendos or dirty, I won't make anything dirty. I want it where your children could watch it. If I could title this story, it would be Mama, Where's Daddy? This is a very true story. It's also a very funny story. And it happened to me and my wife and my children. And when I get done telling it, you're probably going to go, wow. So that's why you say there's the Thomas factor. My wife's name is Brenda. As far as I'm concerned, the greatest wife on planet Earth. A much better Christian than I'll ever be. I wouldn't even make a pimple on her as far as being a Christian. I could tell you stories, but I won't because she would give God the credit, and that's who deserves the credit. But she is a good Christian woman, a good wife, been very faithful to me. Why she married me, I don't know. A weak moment in her life, I guess. But anyway, I was working dog shift. I retired after a little over 30 years with the Baton Rouge City Police Department. Spent most of my time in uniform patrol. The last couple of years, I was over the sex offender child predator registration division thingy. That's when I was on the drop. But all my career, I was basically on the front line, and that's where I enjoy being. I joined the police department because I wanted to be a policeman, not chasing after speeders and stuff like that. I just wanted to do criminal police work. Enjoyed that. It was my calling, let's say. Worked dog shift that night, and we had what we call amongst our organization of Baptist churches the Interstate and Foreign Association meeting. It's where missionaries come from all over and give their reports, and you can report back to your church on mission work being done. Well, just because I worked night shift didn't mean I couldn't go. I wanted to go really bad, so we all loaded up, my wife, all my kids. I don't think I had the two girls then. I don't remember. I think I just had the four boys. Anyway, it was a car full of youngins. Car seats, two of them in car seats, and just youngins scattered all over the place. And it's an all-day event. And then I think we stopped by my wife's mom and daddy's just to visit. So by the time we got on the road that evening, I was one tired puppy. Well, we're on the interstate out around Magnolia, Mississippi on I-55, and I'm starting to fall asleep. My wife's in the passenger seat. She's sound asleep. The kids are asleep. Everybody's asleep but me, and now I'm falling asleep. So I'm like, I'm not going to kill my whole family. So I pulled over on the shoulder, and I woke Brenda up. I said, Brenda Ruth, I'm seeing things. You're going to have to drive. She got out, came around the car. We're on the shoulder of the interstate now, in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi. And she sat in the car, and I got one of the boys out of the rear driver's side seat, and handed the baby to them through the passenger seat, and he got over on the passenger side, and anyway, I shut the back door because I had to go to the bathroom. Well, being a man, we can do that in the dark. Well, when I shut the door, my wife thought I got in the car, but I had not got in the car. I'd walked off into the dark. Well, I saw the car crank up and go in gear and go down the shoulder a little bit and enter the interstate. And I thought, well, this is going to be funny. She's going to realize in just a second I'm not in the car. Well, the last thing I saw was the taillights going over the Gillsburg, I don't remember, the Magnolia Gillsburg exit, somewhere thereabouts on I-55 South. And I thought, you know what? She woke up from a dead sleep. She heard the door slam. She might think I'm in the back seat. Well, I said, this is going to be interesting. So I started walking. I didn't know where I was going to go, but I started walking. And I must have jumped a herd of armadillos because they took off practically under my feet and like to have scared me to death. Well, now that put me I'm in the pitch black. I don't have my gun with me. I'm in the pitch black in the middle of nowhere. So I looked around a little bit and I found this stick, about the size of a walking stick. And I walked all the way up to the next exit, and I was going to go across the bridge, but it was one of those bridges that there's no shoulder. You get a piece of concrete about that big and then the bridge railing. And every time I would start to get on it, it was a pretty good ways across it. A truck would come or a car would come. I said, this is stupid. I'm going to die right here. So I backed up and said, well, I'm going to start walking towards Macomb, and if Brenda circles back around, she'll see me. We're 12 miles from Macomb, by the way. And I see headlights on the other side of the interstate hitting on an exit sign. It was Magnolia, Mississippi. Having gotten off there one day, I remember there was an Exxon station down at the corner of 51 or someplace down there. There was an Exxon station. My hope was it would be open 24 hours. I didn't know. This is pre-cell phone days. Well, I find a place to cross the interstate. I get across the interstate. I exit at Magnolia and said, well, I'm going to go to the Exxon station, get on a payphone if I can, and I'm going to start making some phone calls. Well, as I'm walking in the dark on a 2-lane state highway, I guess it was a state highway in Mississippi, Magnolia was 3 or 4 miles off the interstate. I hear a boom boom car coming. Boom, 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 boom. Now, I'm in my church clothes. It's probably 11 o'clock at night. I got a stick. And as the car is approaching me, I see the front end go down and I see it slowing down. Now, this is not me being a racist. You can think what you want to. I don't care. But as they pass by, all I can make out is 2 or 3 sets of gold teeth. And they slow down almost to a stop. And I'm thinking, well, they're thinking, what is this old white boy doing out in the middle of the night on this country road? They didn't go 20 yards past me, and I heard the car, the big hoopty, making a U-turn. And I said, well, if they stop, I'm going to get out and run. And I'm going to hit the woods, and they're going to have to chase me through the woods. They passed by me at about 5 miles per hour, pretty close. Well, you got to remember, I've been a cop for 20 years by then. My nerves, my red flags were up. But they slowly passed on by, hit the brake lights, and I'm 1 second from hitting the woods, and then they just moved on. And I said, well, if they come back again, it's on. I get a half mile down the road and I see headlights coming again, but I don't hear any boom boom. And I look up, and it's the Magnolia, it's a police car. I see bar lights. I start to run. I said, oh, I got the stick. I threw the stick down. I'm flagging the police car down. And I could see the look in the officer's eyes like, what on earth is going on here? He spooled the window down, and I said, officer, I said, look, I never just come right out and identify myself this way. But I am a Baton Rouge City police officer currently employed. And I said, my wife left me on the side of the interstate, and he looks at me like, oh, great. I said, no, let me explain. I explained it to him, and he couldn't stop laughing. I said, look, can you bring me to the Exxon station? And in between him trying to grasp breath from laughing so hard, I got in the passenger seat. He brought me to the Exxon. He's like, well, good luck with that. Well, I got out. There was a Subway in this Exxon. And again, I'm not trying to be a racist. I am the whitest thing in this store. Now, it's pushing midnight. Subway is jamming. The parking lots are jamming. And everybody's looking at me like, well, this is weird. And I suspect it probably was. I just walked right up to the clerk and I said, ma'am, I didn't even try to explain. I said, can I please use your phone? And back then you had calling cards, and I knew the numbers by heart, and I dialed everything and did like a calling card thing to my house. Well, we have one of those old answer machines that has the tape in it, if you remember that far back. Picked up, my wife had not made it home yet, and I said, Brenda Ruth, in case you haven't noticed, you have left something in Mississippi. And that something would be me. I'm at the Exxon station in Magnolia, Mississippi. Would you please come get me? I hung up the phone and I called my father-in-law. And I said, Pa, this is what's happened. Well, I couldn't get him to stop laughing long enough for me to explain even more about what's going on. When I finally got him calmed down, he said, well, I'll stay by the phone. Just let us know if we need to come get you. I'm like, okay. I said, well, I might as well get me something to eat. Ordered me a Subway. Found an open booth. And while everybody was looking at me, I ate my Subway. Meanwhile, my wife gets home. Pulls up under our little lean-to carport. Says, when she's coming down the right driveway, she says, boys, y'all got to get up now. Time to get up. We're home. We got to go inside. As they come to a stop, my son Luke says, Mama, where's Daddy? Now, I wasn't there, but my boys told me this story. Brenda screamed, jumped out of the car, opened the back door with eyes that big around, and actually said, or actually rather looked under the seats. She bent down and looked under the seat, for real. And then she started screaming, I've left Daddy, I left Daddy, I left Daddy. Well, the boys didn't know what was going on. She tried to explain it to them. So she didn't even come inside. She just put the car in reverse and took off. The boy says she was throwing gravel all over the place. Well, I belong to the volunteer fire department. I did back then out here, and I had a radio in my car. Brenda's never talked on the radio in her life, but she knew how it worked. And there was an unwritten rule: after 10 o'clock, nobody talked on the radio unless it was an emergency. We were good friends with the fire chief, and they always kept a radio on by their bed because he was the fire chief, a little portable radio. And Brenda got on the radio and said, "Lynn, this is Brenda. Can you hear me?" Lynn was asleep. Barbara said, "Lynn, that's Brenda. Something's got to be wrong. She's on the radio." Well, they got up, and Brenda said, "I've left Stan on the interstate." Well, I'm sure the first thought in their mind was, well, okay, this is going to be interesting. But I mean, they knew us, but still, you can imagine. Then she's trying to explain to them, and they said, well, look, wait up by the interstate, and we'll get dressed, we'll come help you look for him. So my wife's pulled over on the shoulder of the interstate. Meanwhile, I'm being looked over very much at the subway at the Exxon in Magnolia, Mississippi. And she pulls over right before the interstate on the shoulder. And she's got the inside light on or whatever. And a deputy passes by and sees a woman pulled over on the shoulder. He turns around, gets behind her, said, "Ma'am, you okay? Can I help you with something? You broke down?" And she's at the point of tears. She's like, "I left my husband. He's a policeman, and I left him on the interstate." Well, his first thought was, oh, great. You know, I just want to go home, and this is what I get. Then she tried to explain to him. And he's still kind of leery, and so he's like, well, what's your husband's name? So he goes back, calls the Baton Rouge Police Department, gets a hold of the dispatch center, and says, hey, I'm trying to confirm, do y'all have a policeman that's Stan Thomas? Yes, we do. Then he explains what's going on. Well, now the entire Baton Rouge Police Department has been alerted. And so it just kind of grows. We got the fire department, we got the police department, the sheriff's office for Tangipahoa and St. Helena Parish. Everybody is out looking for me. Well, they meet up at the Chevron on the other side of the interstate in Tickfaw. And they're trying to come up with a plan, a search pattern, so to speak, because the pass has already been made on the interstate and I'm nowhere to be found. And they talked to a trucker who said, yeah, I saw a white dude walking down the interstate with a stick. Brenda thought we were in Louisiana, but we were still in Mississippi. So one of the guys said, ma'am, do you have an answering machine? Yes, we do. I didn't even go inside. He said, well, what's your phone number? And he knew how to make it play back over the phone. Brenda said, so he called the phone and he hears the message. And he just starts busting out laughing. Well, every single deputy had to listen to the message. And everybody listened to it. So the closest police department was Kentwood. And I'm sitting in the subway. I'm finished with my sandwich. I'm just sitting there minding my own business. And I see a Kentwood police car pull up, which is in Louisiana, by the way. It's on the edge of Mississippi. And he gets in and he looks at me, and I look at him. Are you Stan Thomas? I said, yes, I am. He said, come with me. We got in the car. He's dying laughing. We get back to Tickfaw, which is 10 or 12 miles up the road at the Chevron. It's a little truck stop place there. It looked like the entire Tangipahoa deputy sheriff's department was there, local police departments, fire departments, everybody was there waiting for me and to see what I was going to do when I got back to my wife. Well, I knew she was embarrassed enough. Anyway, so we had a big hug, and we thanked everybody, and I got in the car and called my pa-in-law, called the police department, called the fire chief, took care of everybody, and we got everything settled down. Well, needless to say, for about 2 years, that was the talk of the town. But anyway, that's a true story, and I just thought you might enjoy that. And anyway, it was pretty funny. All right, that's all I had to say for the day. By the way, I'm going fishing tonight with a minister, Brother Brandon Hartfield, and his son Joseph. So, if we can find a break in this weather, so look for a video on that. Have a good day. God bless you.